Hello and welcome to today's video. This is my January wrap up. I'm going to talk about all of the books that I read in January. In January we had a very good reading month. I am very happy with it and it feels like a great start to the year, honestly. I read a total of 15 books and that 15 books translated into 4,732 pages, so like really good, really happy with it. Couldn't have gone better, honestly. We had quite a variety of genres. We had fantasy romance, memoir, non-fiction, sci-fi, horror, fantasy, contemporary, all of which you can hopefully see. And yeah, I read mostly by physical books, followed by audiobooks, followed by ebooks, and then a mixture of them. And I think I should probably talk about my goals during these monthly wrap-up videos. I think that makes sense. I set some goals at the start of the year. If you want to hear all about them, I can link my goals video up above. But the basics of them are, I'm on track to read 52 books. I'm more than on track. I read 15. Like, that's, you know, I needed to read 5 in January, so very happy. And then my next big goal was to read 50% non-fiction. Now, I haven't technically done this, but I'm calling it a tick because obviously I can only do 50% if I read an even number of books. I read 15, so I read 7 non-fiction and 8 fiction. Obviously I can't read 7.5 of each, that just doesn't work. So 7 non-fiction, 8 fiction, I think that's fine. I think that's great. Really happy with it. I've been reducing my physical TBR. I've got it down by a few. Then in terms of finishing or completed series started, I complete 1. I mean, I should probably need to complete more to complete that goal over the whole year, but for January I'll complete 1. I think that's pretty good going. I read 0 of 12 classics, so obviously I should have read 1 in January to keep up to speed. I'm not too worried about it. Normally when I read classics I'll read a couple, so hopefully one of them will soon I get that inkling to read them. And then out of my 25 to read in 2025, I read 2 of them, which is pretty decent. Like, I need to read 2 every month, but 1 month read 3, so I read 2. So yeah, really happy with that. In terms of the books that I read, I'll just talk you through them. I think it's time. So the first book that I read was Broken Fae. This is the 3rd book in the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think it's a really good time. There was a lot of twists and turns I wasn't expecting. It was super fun, super easy to go along with, and so much happened. We got a few little sneak peeks of other characters from other connected series. We really saw the team come together. We saw a lot, and we got characters that are going to be prominent in future series as well, so it was a really good time. We also in this series there is a present timeline, but we also every so often get a chapter from a previous timeline, and that timeline is now like up to the point where it's got to stop. We can only really get 1 or 2 more looks at that, and then like we know that person dies. So very soon it will have to be revealed how that person died, and I feel like we already pretty much know. It just needs confirming by seeing it. So yeah, that felt really good as well. Like, it felt like all the mysteries going on in our present timeline and also the sneak peeks we're getting in the previous timeline, they're kind of merging together and really going along nicely. I still like all the characters. I still had a lot of fun, and yeah, really enjoyed reading the book. Then I read Sipping Dom Perignon Through a Straw. This is a memoir, and it was also my first 5-star of the year, and it was such a well-deserved 5-star. This book was truly amazing, and I would recommend this to absolutely everyone. I think it's really important reading. I have grown up in a way where disability is very normal and very like normalised. Having a disability is a norm, and I don't think I'd be shocked by this, but there was so much in this that truly shocked me. This is mainly dealing with the year of Eddie's life that he is at Oxford. It does start a little bit before that, and the last couple of chapters we do move forward in time, so it does take up more than that, but the large majority of this is that year. And I've never dealt with like a university college system in that way, and I found it shocking. I also found the care aid side of things shocking, and there was just so much in this that really, like, I can't believe this was ever seen as acceptable. And I don't know how much it's improved from when this was happening to him, which was about 5-10 years ago to now. So yeah, really amazing writing, interesting. I just wanted to learn more and educate myself more. I absolutely thoroughly tabbed this book of just like mostly important things. Like, most of these tabs are just important things. I honestly will read absolutely anything that he comes out with. Like, the writing was great, and if there are ever any more books, I will definitely read them. And I'm also really excited to follow him, like, on his journey and what he's doing. He's doing so much stuff now. He's a disability rights activist. He's also on quite a few boards for things nationwide, but also globally, and it seems like he's doing a lot, so I really can't wait to see like what he continues to do. Then I read 1000 Paper Cranes. This is the story of Sadako and the Children's Peace statue. This starts off with the atomic bomb being dropped on Hiroshima and continues on from there to around 10 years later, where people are still getting ill because of atomic bomb disease, and it really follows that process. Now, I gave it 3.5 stars. I think the content was good, but it's quite confusing who this is aimed at. This, on American websites, which is the audience it was originally written for, the author lives in America and wrote it for American education, is classed as middle grade, which is 8 to 12 years old. In the UK, it's marked as 12 plus, so already a bit of difference there. A lot of the things that were spoke about in this went into a lot of detail, and I as an adult was like 100% fine reading this, but it made me think of like younger people reading this, and I feel like some of the stuff was potentially like manipulative maybe. I'll tell you exactly how I wrote it in my reading journal. The characters were written very choppy, like each one was written thinking about a different audience. In America, which is stated in the start of the book was this book's target audience, it was released as middle grade, 8 to 12 years old, but in the UK this book is marked as 12 plus, and I think this shows exactly how I feel. Some chapters I felt on equal footing with, some I felt spoken down to, and some I felt would potentially be emotionally manipulative if a younger audience were to read them. And again, like, I personally liked how this went into detail. I thought that the descriptiveness of both the attack and the deaths following it and how this disease really truly affected people was really good. I just don't think it was really good for the audience. It was descriptive, and it is a book written, like, you see that in your mind, you see that when you read it. So I was just a bit confused there. Honestly, I think this is good, and if you want to learn more, I do think it's a fairly decent book. Like, I don't think the writing's the best, it's a little choppy, but like, I do feel like I learned a lot from it. I just wish there was better non-fiction out there about this. I have looked, I found one list of 6 non-fiction books that are to do with this. Some of this were written before this. I think there was one on there that I was hopeful about, and I think I will get and read at some point. If you have any recommendations, both on books on Hiroshima but also atomic bomb disease and how that affects people, like, please do let me know, because I would like to find a better non-fiction. Right now it's 3.5 stars, and it's like, at least it's there, at least the information's out there and you are able to get it and consume it. Honestly, I wish it was done better. I feel like if I was able to find a better book, this would probably be less than 3.5. But because there's not anything better out there, it's better to have this than nothing, kind of thing. Yeah, and I really did like the inclusion of the pictures for it as well. Yeah, the content was good. I learned a lot. I felt educated, but I don't think it was put together the best way. I don't think the writing was the best, and it just felt choppy and like it wasn't quite sure who its audience was. Then I read Democracy, and this one was 3.5 stars again, but this is Democracy, 11 writers and leaders on what it is and why it matters. There are so many writers. I'll come close up so you can see all of the different writers that are included in this, and basically it's 3.5 because that's what it averaged out to. So I rated everything within this and then averaged the score out. So the introduction, 4 stars. Terra Incognita, 4 stars. Other than them, 5 stars. A Fragile State, 5 stars. Freedom, Progress and Capitalism, 3 stars. On Democracy, 2 stars. What the West Forgot About Democracy, 3 stars. Democracy, 3.5 stars. Why Democracy Failed in Afghanistan, 4 stars. In That Top, 2 stars. Why We Should Join Things, 4 stars. And Note of a Wartime Child on Democracy, 2.5 stars. That averaged out to 3.5 stars. Overall, the ones I enjoyed, the essays I read and I really enjoyed. I thought they were good. I definitely got different perspectives throughout this, and it was interesting reading so many people's thoughts. I was surprised this is all written by women. I was really surprised that there was no like mention of LGBTQ+ rights, of trans rights, of any sort of racial rights. Like, it really was very big picture democracy, I guess I'd say. It was interesting. And I did read from like a lot of places. There's lots of different authors. These authors are based all around the world. There was a lot to benefit from this. But it's also all written leading up to the 2024 election, which obviously happened, and it was interesting to read. But I feel like how it was written and why it was written, it does kind of have a timestamp. It has a time limit on it of when it's still relevant and when it's important. I do think if your library has this, pick it up, give it a go. And I don't know if any of these essays are available anywhere else online, but the ones that I really enjoyed were Terra Incognita, Us and Them, A Fragile State, and Why Democracy Failed in Afghanistan. And I also liked Why We Should Join Things. They were good, they were interesting, and there were definitely a few points where I got further reading from them. I do need to go back through because I didn't tab this. I did highlight a lot and underline a lot and stuff like that, but I do need to go through and check, because I know it, especially on Why We Should Join Things, I know especially that there were like 2 books recommended for further reading. And I found it really interesting. I did find it good. I just feel like because it was written before the 2024 election, and that basically like went tits up for everyone, it just doesn't quite hold up the same. I don't know, it's a difficult one. I then read Warrior Fae. This is the 4th and final book in the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series, and I gave it 4 stars. Didn't enjoy it as much as the previous book, and I don't know, I had all my questions answered. Everything I was curious about, everything that needed to be concluded was concluded. One, I got a bit annoyed at the epilogues. They weren't called epilogues, they were just continued on as chapters, but there were definitely epilogues. And there were so many of them. Like, even the book said, and here's one more sort of thing, like even the book acknowledged how much epilogue there was, how much it jumped forwards. I honestly can't remember how many there were, but it was like a few weeks forward, a few months forward, another few months, a year, another few years, another few years. Like, there was a lot. Like, it really felt like a lot, and I just got a bit fed up with that. So yeah, that definitely made me think less fondly of it by the end. But I was happy with it. Everything got wrapped up. All of our characters were wrapped up nicely. I liked all our characters by the end of it. There were moments in this I really, really loved, and moments in this I really didn't care for. We had a big bad, and we still needed to defeat the big bad in this one, and it just kind of felt like it went on for a little bit too long. There were just a few too many near misses in this that got to the point of frustration. And this is, I think, one of the first books that I've ever given like a 4 chili pepper rating to. And one of the final things that I wrote in my reading journal was just, honestly, I feel like this would be a higher rating if we had less sex and got on with the story a bit faster. I still really enjoyed the story, but yeah, like it just did feel a bit long, and a bit too many near misses, and a bit too much time spent on other crap. So yeah, unfortunately not the perfect ending, but I do feel happy I read it, happy I finished it, and like everything I had queries on was answered. So yeah, let's move on. Then I read January 15th. So I think I ended up having to read this over 2 days. I did start it on January 15th, but I don't think I finished it till the 16th. But that was my plan. If I didn't read it this year, I had to get rid of it. Maybe I should have just got rid of it. It was 2.5 stars. It was, I think this might have been my lowest rating of the month. Yeah, it was the lowest rating of the month. I just didn't really like this, honestly. I think I can understand why some people do like it. I know this is like cliche to refer back to Black Mirror, but Black Mirror is something that a lot of people have seen at least a few episodes on, understand the concept. I feel if you enjoy that kind of Black Mirror, quick look into this slice of futuristic dystopian reality and out of it. Like, there's no conclusion, there's no anything, you just get a quick look at it and you're done. I think you could enjoy this. I personally don't like Black Mirror. I don't know why I thought I'd enjoy this, honestly. I think I just thought it'd be wrapped up more, but it wasn't. A lot of the things that were happening in this book, so we follow 4 different perspectives and we see each of their perspectives at a different time of day. So I think it's early morning, midday, afternoon, evening. There might have been one more, but it's split into 5 or 6 sections of time, and each time you get a little section of each perspective. And I enjoyed the setup, I enjoyed what it did, but everyone had already got their own shit going on. Everyone was already like in the middle of their stuff, and by the end of it, none of it was concluded, none of it felt finished. It felt like there was so much more to do, and honestly, it just wasn't for me. I would have loved to read a full-length novel on this. This is only a tiny novella. I haven't actually held it up. Here it is, tiny little novella, 236 pages, so tiny, and I feel, honestly, like, I liked the concept. I didn't like how it ended. Well, not even ended, because it didn't end, it just finished. Like, the day was over, so the story was over. I just don't think that sort of thing is for me. I understand it works for some people, it didn't work for me. So yeah, if you do enjoy that kind of Black Mirror, that sort of style of there's this dystopian world, there's this futuristic world, let's have a quick look at it and then go, you could like it. But yeah, unfortunately not mine. Then I read Graveyard Shift. You'll have already heard me speak about this one a little bit in my 24 hours reading audiobook, so I will link that up above. You can see that. This got 3 stars. This was my other kind of low rated book of the month. Everything else got above 3 stars, so that's amazing, but this was 3 stars. For the first half of the book, none of our characters felt like different from each other. They all felt very much the same. I did understand the differences in them and get to know them by the end of it, but it did take a long time for that to happen, especially for it being such a short book. 108 pages, so like tiny book. There was a really interesting thing that was spoken about in this, but we didn't see any of it. It had all happened like a month to a few weeks before this and just got mentioned. It sounded so cool. It sounded like it could have been an amazing story. By the end of it, it sounded like loads of things were going to be discovered and we were going to have like some big investigation into this big thing that we'd been sorting out throughout the book. But the story ended. We didn't see any of that aftermath. We didn't see any of it all. This all happens over one night. It's a few hours. I think it starts at midnight and it ends kind of like come morning. What time was that? It ends at 10 AM. So you get 10 hours in this story. I wanted more. Honestly, I just wanted more. I feel a bit sad about it because I feel like it had a lot of potential and a lot of hope. I really enjoyed the writing style. I haven't read anything else by ML Rio before, and I definitely will pick up If We're Villains. I think that's their only other book. I definitely will pick that up because I really enjoyed the writing. Honestly, I kind of just wish this was a massive 600, 800 page book and we went into all of these things that were happening before and we got the aftermath. We got, when this story ended, we got to see all the aftermath, got to see how things played out. I wish it would have been that, and it just wasn't. So yeah, unfortunately I don't really have anything positive to say. Then I read Michelangelo. This I gave 3.5 stars. I find it difficult to rate this. It's a non-fiction book, but there's no synopsis for it, so I don't know what it was trying to do. So normally with non-fiction, I rate them relevant to if they did what they told me they were going to try and do. There's nothing to really rate against here. I do feel by the end of this, I understood Michelangelo's life a bit better. I understood his career a bit better. I do feel like I learned from this. However, there was a lot of stuff in here that wasn't about his life and was just random religious bullshit, honestly. And I didn't enjoy that. There was a few times where names were mentioned and you just expected to know who this person was, and it wasn't until later on that you did understand who it was. And those two things really annoyed me. I did learn about his life and I did get to see lots of different art, and it did really show me the progress. Like, you can see there is so much in here. Like, every page has pictures, every page shows you what it's talking about. However, the other downside of this book was the formatting. It was pretty dreadful to the point of not knowing where to start. Pages would have so many different size writing on, but like mean the same thing. There wasn't a reason for the writing to be different sizes, so I struggled with that. I also struggled with where to read on the page. I'm trying to find a page without nudity, but so many of these stone statues have nudity that I am struggling. Yeah. Yes, okay, everyone is covered up here. It's actually a pretty decent page in terms of format, so it's not going to prove my point, but this is kind of how you can see, start here, work our way down, work our way down. You'd think it worked like that every page, but no. Sometimes the main thing that you're meant to be reading was here, but you'd be starting at the top because that's how you normally read a page. The formatting was just really bad, and I think, couldn't find out for definite, I got this in a charity shop. I've searched online. I think this came out in 1995, and I think you can just tell the formatting wasn't there. Like, they didn't know how to structure a page, they didn't know how to have the information in terms of the word and also the pictures there, and also like what the pictures were. I just don't think it was done very well, honestly. Like, yeah, I'm glad I read it. I learnt more. I definitely understood more about his life. I understood more about his art. I do like going to art galleries. I do feel like having this knowledge will, you know, help me. Like, I am happy about it. I just don't think this was the best book for it. I do read later on in the month another book in this format. I won't be buying any more of them. I'd brought both of them at the same time. I would like to find a cool like art book about different artists where I can buy them, like even if it was one on Michelangelo, I'd buy it again. But I would like to find a format and a style that I do like, so I can pick them up and read them and learn more. I haven't yet found one, but I haven't really looked either. So yeah, that's my next thing. I like the idea of this. I just want a more modern version that's better, basically. Then I read Caged Wolf. This is book 1 of the Dartmoor Penitentiary series. I'm not actually sure if that's what it's called. What's the series called? Okay, it is called the Dartmoor Penitentiary series. Cool, that is what it's actually called. And yeah, this was book 1 in it, Caged Wolf. I really enjoyed it. I gave this 4.5 stars. This was a really positive start. This was a really good introduction to a series. Essentially, in this series we see Rosalie, who in both of the other Zodiac series that there are is a character that's mentioned. Like, she's not really a big character or a main character, but we do know her from the other series. But she's the main character in this one. She purposely gets caught on a job to rob a bank so that she can get sent to Dartmoor Penitentiary and do this massive big escape. And that's where we start. We have so many different characters, so many different types of characters. I thought it was really interesting. For me, I felt like I could really picture it and I was really there, and I really enjoyed that. I do wonder, there were certain parts of this that, how do I say this without giving spoilers? There was a part of this to do with movement around the prison that felt to me, now I can't remember definitely, I saw this when I was a child, so I can't remember for definite, but it really felt to me very inspired by the breakout at Alcatraz. And I do wonder if it was at all. Like, it was only that one part, but especially when it's taking place, and it was quite a lot in this book, I definitely wondered, like, was it actually inspired? Like, was that research actually done into that? I don't know, but it's really cool. I like our characters overall. I really liked Rosalie as a main character, and then we have 4 other characters that I would call main characters. By the end of the book I liked 3 of them, so 3 out of 4 liking as like the other main characters is not bad. There was one character who I'm pretty sure is a love interest and will be going forward, who I don't like, so hopefully that changes. But yeah, by the end of this one I only liked 3 of the 4. In terms of the plot, I'm interested, I'm invested, I want to keep reading, I want to move forward to this, I want to know more, I want to know how this is going to play out. So yeah, I was so interested and excited about the book. The book 10 that I read was actually Alpha Wolf. This is book 2 in that same series. I also gave this 4.5 stars. I enjoyed it honestly just as much. I thought it was really good. We've progressed in the story. We learnt more about each of our characters. We got lots of different point of views from each of them. I feel like we really did learn more about a lot of them, and I really enjoyed how the story progressed. A little slower than I expected, but not in a bad way. Like, I was very happy with where it went. I don't think I can say more without spoilers, so let's just leave it there. Then I read Monet. This is the other of these art in focus books that I'd got. I also gave this 3.5 stars. It was better written than the other one, but worse formatting and very repetitive. So like, it was better written in terms of like everything in this seemed relevant, but things in this were often repeated. There was one point where he went to London, and I think on 4 different pages it was told to us that he'd gone to London. So I definitely learnt from this. I definitely understood his work, his art, how it developed more from this. I'm glad I read it, I'm glad I have that information, I'm glad I've like given myself that education. I just, again, don't think this is the best book for it. So 3.5 stars. Again, no synopsis. I can't tell you what this book was trying to do exactly, but I did like it for what it was. I just know that there must be better out there that are more modern. Again, I think, again, bought it secondhand, couldn't find it definitely online, but I think this one was published in 1995 as well. So yeah, just I'd like a more recent version of these types of books. Basically, the information was good, it was a good starting point. I would still like to learn more about Monet. Like, I feel like for me, Monet, like, I actually like the art. In terms of Michelangelo, like, I can appreciate the art for what it is, but like, I don't think I'd like it. Like, I don't think I'd ever, like, you know, get anything personally for me for it. But when it comes to Monet, like, I actually really like the art. Like, I really like landscapes, and I really like how he did his landscapes. So I would definitely like to learn more, and this was a really good starting point. So yeah, glad I read it. And I eventually finished The Battle Drum and rated it 4 stars. This book has been a journey for me, not for any particular reason, except for I like audio reading this. Like, the audiobook for this series I really enjoy and find them really good, and I get them from the library. And I started this, I can't even remember when, maybe October, maybe it honestly could have been before then, it could have been after, but it's been a few months. But basically I've had to wait a few times to get the audiobook back because I wasn't prioritising it. So when I got the audiobook back this time, I prioritised it. We were reading it, we were getting it finished. I think when I got the audiobook back this time, I was on chapter like 41 or something, so it really didn't have far to go. I think I had less than 100 pages left, so I prioritised it, and I'm really glad I did. This got 4 stars. I thought it was a really good continuation of the story. It definitely took a few twists and turns. There were some very shocking moments. We are still, like, this is book 2 of a trilogy, so we've only got 1 more book. We are still discovering so much in this one. This is the second book in the Ending Fire trilogy. The first book is called The Final Strife. Essentially, you have these people with different coloured bloods. In book 1 we have red, blue and clear. Red, rule. Blue, like, serve in a worker type sense, and clear are basically slaves. Like, very simplified, but that's basically the situation. And we learned so much in book 1 based on people who maybe aren't where they should be, and we just keep learning. I didn't know how much we'd learn in this one, but we are discovering so much more. I don't think I can say anything else, because the things we're discovering in this book I didn't even know were a possibility in book 1, so I think I have to leave it there. I really like the characters. I really enjoyed seeing, we get like 3 perspectives mainly. There is occasionally like a bit from someone else, but it's mainly 3 characters. I would say our 3 main characters are Soila, Anor and Hassa, and I really enjoyed following all 3 of them, and can't wait / I'm scared to see what happens in the 3rd and final book. So yeah, that's that one. Then our other 5-star of the month was another memoir, and this was The Third Gilmore Girl. So this is Kelly Bishop's memoir. I loved Gilmore Girls growing up. Every so often I'll rewatch it. I actually haven't in a few years. I mean, I don't know if this year will be the year. It's like an autumn time rewatch, so I guess there's time to decide. But yeah, this was her memoir. It only had 1 chapter on Gilmore Girls. I don't think that's a negative, but I do think it was different than what I was expecting based on the title. So I do think it's important to say it was a very long chapter. I think it was the longest chapter in the whole book, but there was only 1 chapter actually specifically on Gilmore Girls. But this talks about her entire career, her, like, everything, like from when she started, well actually before that, because it starts out with her just in like dance classes, like it wasn't a career for her, it was her learning as a child. We see her move to New York, start her career as a dancer, and transition into her career as an actor, and really everything that's happened, and it goes up till very recent. I think this ends in, I mean, she talks about COVID at 2022, I think it ends. And Now Here I Am in Midsummer 2023 is like a few pages from the end. So I'm guessing we've got till the middle of 2023. And it was so good. It was honestly so good. I would say you can definitely just listen to the audio. There are pictures in the middle, so I mean, I think they're worth looking at. I definitely did look at them, but I didn't look at them till afterwards, honestly. Look, I read the entire book and then went back and looked at the pictures. But the audiobook is narrated by Kelly Bishop herself. It's really good. You can really like, well, obviously you can hear her, she's talking, but you can just really sense who she is. I really had a fantastic time. I learned so much. I learned about a lot of things, honestly. It was, for me, the most interesting part of this was the Gilmore Girls part, but it's so much more than that as well. She is in so many like Broadway shows, off-Broadway, she is in Vegas, and she's done shows since, and she talks about the shows she's done since Gilmore Girls as well. So yeah, very, very exciting. 5 stars, definitely. If you have any interest in this, I would highly recommend it. Okay, my camera battery is flashing and I have 2 books to talk about, so unfortunately I am going to have to speed through these. But the next book that I read was Knife. This is a memoir. This is Salman Rushdie's memoir. 4.5 stars. So almost a 5 stars, but there were just a few questionable things in this that made me feel not uncomfortable, but a bit like, oh, maybe you could do a bit more research into that. The main thing was honestly to do with blindness. This all takes place talking about when he got attacked at a author event, and you know, it was an attack. He was stabbed I think 15 times. They attempted to murder him, so it follows on from that. And he loses sight in one of his eyes, like he's lost one of his eyes in terms of like sight. And there's a few times he mentions how like being blind is the worst thing. It's the worst thing that could happen to you. It's its biggest fear. And I think it says slightly more than that, but that's basically it. And it just made me feel very uncomfortable and slightly ableist. Like, I don't think it was intentional, but it just feels like education is needed there. Except for that, which was such a small part, but it made me feel so icky that I couldn't give it the full 5 stars. Except for that, it was absolutely amazing. I was absolutely like captured by this. I read it mainly via the audiobook. My library had the audiobook for it, so I read it mainly that way, and it was truly amazing. Like, honestly amazing. He reads it himself, he talks through it all. I learnt so much. I knew nothing about this going in. All I'd seen was the premise of the fact that he got attacked at this event, and this was the events that followed the horrific act of violence. I would recommend it, honestly. Like, this made me emotional at times, which is not that common in books, honestly. Like, truly emotional. Like, yeah, this was that. And it talks through so much of his life and talks through his recovery and really talks through his process of processing this violent attack and how he not just has dealt with it, but is dealing with it still. Like, the stuff that he's had to come through since. So yeah, highly recommend. 4.5 stars, so close to a 5. And then the final book that I read in the month was True Biz. This is a fiction book. I would say this is contemporary fiction, and True Biz follows characters at a deaf school. It's called River Valley School for the Deaf, and we follow the head teacher, who is a child of deaf parents. We follow a student who has been pretty deprived throughout her life of like language. Her parents really pushed for her to get things done to make her hearing, basically. None of it's worked. It's made her isolated. She can't hear and she doesn't know sign language, and this is her coming to this school, being able to learn sign language, being able to like communicate and be in this world with these people. And then we also follow another character who is a deaf kid. Like, they're kids at the school, and his parents, one of them's deaf, one of them's a like sign language, what are they called? I know there's a word for that, I just can't think of it right now. The camera battery's flashing. But yeah, his family, like deaf, like they're all deaf going back, and like that's a really massive point of pride. Like, they all have this sign language, they all speak super quickly to each other. Like, it's just a normal family that just happen to be deaf. And his little sister is born, and she's born hearing, and it's him dealing with that and what that means and how his parents feel about that. And it's really interesting. You see these lives intersect and come together. You hear so many stories. It was absolutely amazing. I would highly recommend it. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. So yeah, super close to being 5 stars. Honestly, I just wanted a little bit more. If this book was maybe like 50 pages longer, I feel like it could have been 5 stars, but it did slightly abruptly end. The author does talk about in the author's note how that's intentional. The story is now yours. What happens to these characters in the future is what you think. But for me personally, that's just not quite what I would love. So 4.5 stars, but absolutely amazing. I read this so quickly. I whizzed through this. It's also a really good book. I would say if you are reading it, I do recommend, I don't actually know if it's an audiobook. I read it physically, but I would recommend the physical because there's so many pictures and diagrams in here of the signing. This is ASL throughout the whole book. It's set in America, they use ASL, and it was also really informative. There were things in this I didn't know. Quite a few of these tabs are just things that I had no idea about. So yeah, really amazing. A fictional book, but it definitely was educational as well. But also you just love these characters and want to learn more about these characters and learn about them. They're not perfect, but they are like imperfectly perfect. You're just learning about these everyday normal lives of these characters. Highly, 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 highly recommend. Potentially my favourite contemporary book I've read, but I will have to look through them all to decide that. And those plus the ebooks are the ones that I read during January. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please do give it a like if you liked it. Subscribe down below if you'd like to see more content like this, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye!